But first, I'm here with emotional wellness and relationship expert and our newest Ramsey Personality, Dr. John Delony. John, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so you're new to Ramsey Solutions.
Yes.
Welcome. So glad you're here.
Thank you.
It's great. How's it been?
I'm on TV now. That's pretty awesome. It's been good.
Good.
It's been good.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about your story and like what you're doing before you came here.
I spent the last 15 or 16 years working at colleges and universities. And before that, I was a high school teacher, an elementary school teacher. But the last pretty much 2 decades, I've been working in crisis response. And when the wheels fall off of people's wagons, then I'm there with them. And then I've done some crisis work with police departments and SWAT teams, and just seeing behind the scenes when things get really hard for folks.
Yeah, and their emotional and mental health
is
big on your plate. And you've studied that. You have how many degrees?
I have a PhD in education. I have a PhD in counseling.
Yes, so you deal with people on all spectrums when it comes
all over the place
to their emotional health. So that's exactly why I wanted him on today's episode, because we're going to be talking about ways to become financially healthy. And I've been doing a lot of research the past year over the whys behind our spending habits. So the first step when it comes to improving your financial health is to determine where you're starting from emotionally. So determining that is really big when it comes to tackling your money, because the emotional part is huge.
I'm so glad you're saying that. Yes.
Okay, so tell me, start from the beginning. How do you feel like the way people grew up, money or not, just in general, how their backgrounds affect them today?
The best way I've heard it explained is Brene Brown says that genetics loads the gun and environment pulls the trigger. Everything about how we react, how we experience holidays, the way we get angry, the way we get sad, the way we're happy, the way we spend money, all that is a result of partly how we're wired, but often how we see and experience our parents, our friends, our cousins, our church community, those people around us. And so it paints the picture of what life looks like, and then we just automatically live into that picture. And so much of those thoughts and actions and behaviors become automated. And
it's wild, because for me, I'm like, you don't even realize it until you talk to a counselor or a psychologist. I mean, you really talk to someone who studies this well, and it's like they can just pull a thread, and you realize there's so many layers to us as human beings. And a lot of it does start with childhood.
Well, and remember when you moved in with your first roommate as a freshman in college, it was like, whoa, that's not how you put clothes in the drawer, and that's not how you brush your teeth, weirdo, right? And that's this kind of the first collision that many of us have. Or if you move to a new home, or you get a stepsister or a stepbrother, that's when you start to realize, whoa, the way I did it isn't the right way, it's just a different way.
Yes,
right?
So good. Okay, so something you say that I love is that the two things you can control are your thoughts and your actions. So when it comes to people, when people hear that, how do you help change habits in people to really believe that and see that that's true?
Often what I see folks trying to change habits is they focus on a destination, where they're gonna go, a goal, and they start doubling down on their actions. I want to lose weight, so I'm gonna work out, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. And we forget that thoughts are automated too. And so thoughts are things that just pop into our heads all day long, and they often skew towards protecting us from other things, right? So we often focus on, I need to work out, I need to do this, I need to do this. We forget that I grabbed a colleague's donut. Well, I'm out today, so I'm gonna have 7 burritos and 4 hot dogs.
Plays
that's
so
right.
Deeply, yes.
Or I bought that one latte on the way to work. I forgot, we talked about our budget. Well, forget it, I'm going to Amazon then, right? And I'm just gonna click. Right then in that moment, just stop and say, what is my brain trying to protect me from? And if you can catch yourself right before that action, right when your automated thought goes and you catch yourself, then you can say, what am I trying to do, right? And usually it's our brain trying to unconsciously protect us from pain of stress or pain of exhaustion or pain of my wife's asking me to do something yet again and we're not on the same page, or pain of I make the money in the house, who can tell me what to buy, right? And so it just catches you right there. So if you can stop right before.
So good, because there's so many things that we do subconsciously to protect us from that pain. Right. Yes. So you've studied and researched habits. So what is the top things you've heard and researched, what you've learned in your own life to create these new habits versus, or starting with controlling those actions, controlling those thoughts?
So for the last 4 or 5 years, there's been a lot of cool, hip new books out on habits, right? Big habits and little habits and all kinds of habits, right? I like to think of habits on a bigger picture. So I like to look at the addiction literature and the choice theory literature and relationships and get a big picture. So here's a couple of things that when I think about changing habits, which is really changing automated thoughts and automated behaviors, the first thing is context is really important. So, for instance, if you and Winston are going to get in a disagreement and you get in the same, every time you have a disagreement, you sit at the same seat at the table. When you sit at that table and y'all look at each other, you automatically get into, right? That's why sometimes if you go hiking or you're on a road trip, you have these great deep conversations, same two people talking, same important things we're talking about, but the context has changed, right? So if we can get ourselves out of a context, that will help change behaviors. The second thing is, and this is really fun for a nerd, the liking part of our brain and the wanting part of our brain are different. And so I really like the idea of me with the six-pack abs, but my brain is saying, I want the gummy candy hit, the dopamine hit, right?
Give me the pizza.
Yes, yeah. I love the idea of being debt-free, but I want the dopamine hit of the retail therapy, right? And so we forget that, or we often don't know that those are two separate processes. And so if I can get to the wants, then it's different than the likes. The third thing is you can't break an addiction, you can't break a habit without a community. Often what you do is you end up trading one addictive behavior for another, right? So you have people that are credit card people, and then they get on the Dave Ramsey plan, and then they become lunatic, right? Like they'll karate chop the credit card out of your hand, right? So when you have a community, they can hold you accountable and they can be with you and walk alongside you. And when you stumble, they can pick you back up and you lean on each other.
I love that. And it's so good for your emotional health to know all those things and to really apply that to your life. So what advice, what encouragement do you have for people that have made bad mistakes in the past, money or not, right? Just life. And there's a lot of shame with that. So when I think about emotional health, shame is one of the top words I feel like right now people are talking about. So people have that. They do have a lot of shame talk. They have a lot of shame and possibly from those past mistakes. So what advice do you have for them?
So let me paint you a picture. We're all born with a backpack. I've been a tall, handsome, super good-looking guy that was trying to be funny, but you didn't think
I was just like, yes, John.
That's cool.
Yes.
So
have that self-confidence.
Right. My parents are still married. I was raised in a Christian home. I was born in Texas, which is one of the greatest places on earth to live. All these things. So I had very few bricks in my backpack when I was born. I had many friends who came from broken homes or from abject poverty or whose parents were immigrants. They had lots of challenges. They came into the game with bricks in their backpack. So fast forward to your question about shame and making mistakes. Let's say that me and my wife sat down and we have a really deep conversation about being on a budget. And then she's late getting home one night, and I think, she's gonna make me do bedtimes again for the 5th night in a row. She's doing this on purpose, and I get frustrated, and we don't have any candy in the house because I'm trying to eat healthy now. And then I end up on Amazon, and I click and I buy the thing, right? And so then I feel guilty. So think of guilt as I'm picking up a brick and it's heavy and it's uncomfortable. I should be picking up that brick because we made an agreement and I broke that agreement, okay? Shame is when I take that agreement and I put it in my own backpack and decide I'm just gonna carry this sucker around. And so what I tell folks in this situation is put the bricks down. And some of us to go full circle, some of us come from families where part of our identity is carrying as many bricks as possible. That's how we show how tough we are and how hard things are for us. And what I want to tell everybody is put your bricks down. Put them down.
It's so good, John. I mean, seriously, on a range of levels, but I think it's so huge to start with where we are emotionally and grow from there. So thank you. Thanks for being on.